I'm Dr. Donna Kinchlow. We're now on session 3, One Common Thread. This session will review the tie between personalities and loss. Think about it. Can personality actually influence our response to loss? If we create a list of loss, is that going to help assist us in developing awareness and sensitivity? I believe the answer is yes. I need to tell you that years ago I went to a human dynamics conference. It was so neat. It taught you how different people process thought. And it did it according to your personality. They categorized 5 specific personality dynamics. It was called human dynamics. The reason that they did the research they did and they looked at personality, they were talking about working as a team and how you actually need to have this diversity of personality, and you have to have respect, and how this personality can have this strength and this one that weakness. They explored all kinds of labels and categories, but this is so true about loss. So much depends on who we are, what our personality does when we face loss. And we need to do the same thing that they said, which is respect that everybody has a different mix of personality. So you look at this group of spools of thread. So we're talking about the common thread of loss. I love to sew. So in my sewing room, I do have gobs of different threads. What do we know about that? The size of the spool or the yardage may let you know that one spool of thread is going to last longer than another. But in all honesty, sometimes it doesn't matter how tightly wound the spool is, how tiny the spool is, depending on your personality, your loss may last much longer than others. When you think about personality and you think, whoa, some people are wound tighter than other people, that's a factor. A tightly controlling personality might try to control the uncontrollable, while a different personality could be much looser. I'll give you an example of a nurse that I so respected many years ago during one of my first intensive care experiences. I had the greatest respect for this nurse, and I would say, hey, I'm finished with my patients. Is there something I can do for you? And she'd say, no, I'm fine. Thank you very much. No, thank you. And one day I just asked her, Cheryl, what is the deal? Do you not trust me? And she said, trust has nothing to do with it. You see, Donna, in my mind, I have a list of the things that I need to get done. And if you would jump in and do 2 things off of my list, that would put me in chaos. That is the type of personality which is called a mental personality. You have to have things linear. You have to have a checklist in your mind of how things are going to be. Did I get upset about that? No. I really respected her. And I know that if I ever had a question or if I ever needed her, she would be right there for me. But having the conversation and knowing that, okay, I did not lose respect. I gained respect for her and for myself, because I felt inadequate. I felt like I had lost her respect for me and my nursing care. It wasn't that way at all. That's also when you need that sensitivity antenna that I talk about. Very, very important. Let's talk about a person with a looser personality. Somebody who is laid back, relaxed. They might be a bit more tolerable and flexible when loss comes their way, because for them, they might be able to bend a little more or flex a little more. Or maybe their world is so full of chaos they don't even realize the loss has occurred. Another point there. What if I have experienced a great deal of loss in my life? Chaos doesn't stress me because I've experienced so much. I know certain things about the outcomes. Let's take time to review this slide. If you were to make a list of all the losses in our lives, that's an awful lot. I do want to tell those of you who are nursing students, one of the sweetest things that ever happens is your patients are going to trust you and share with you losses. And when I look at some of these losses on this slide, I can tell you a couple stories because you see, they know or feel that you have compassion and a sensitivity antenna. So I was taking care of this woman and she tells me that she has one son, only she's at it past tense. I had one son. Well, I have a son too, so I asked, what happened to your son? She said, my son was murdered. He was a salesman and he was in his room in a hotel. And my son was murdered for $40 and they never found the perpetrator. And she shares that loss with me. I had another. My last job, I was the heart failure coordinator. I did a lot of education with patients, and they would come in quite frequently near the end of their heart failure trajectory. And this dear man, he and I developed a really good relationship because you do when you're seeing someone again and again. And he told me that his daughter was living with him and his granddaughter, and he loved his granddaughter oh so much. And she was being bullied at school. And the sadness was the school was a religious school. And the kids that were doing all the bullying, their parents or mothers were the educators in this religious school. So the granddaughter did not feel like she could report it, she could do anything. And we just had this sweet talk. And when I came home that day, I got in my jewelry box and I thought, I wish I could do something for that little girl, because for him, that loss of comfort, that sadness that she was being bullied really was wearing on him. It was a loss of, you have no control over what's going on with your grandchild and you know that something's going on. So I came home and I looked at my jewelry box, and I have a bunch of different cross necklaces. And so I found a little box and I put a little cross necklace in this box, and I took it to my patient the next day. And I said, I have a little something, and I wrote her a card for your granddaughter, because I was raised by my grandparents. I know how wonderful it is to have that relationship with your grandfather. And I showed him the necklace, asked him if he thought she would like it, and he was so excited. He even called his daughter to come in and get it so she could give it to his daughter, his granddaughter. And the response was this: when I showed him the cross, he said, my wife always wore a cross necklace. So it was just a precious act of sensitive kindness to help with a loss that was shared with me. And did it make a difference? Yeah, I do believe it does. When you think about school and you think about, oh my, I failed that exam. Oh my, what am I going to do if I can't pass and make the grade? Well, that was me. I was in a 3-year diploma school, and that was me. I was used to getting A's and B's. I wasn't used to the grueling craziness of nursing school, and that was back in the 70s. So it was a whole lot different than what you guys have. You guys have more webinars and books that are so thick and cost so much money. But for me, I was very afraid that I was going to fail. And so what did I do? My personality is, if I'm going to fail, I got to get ready to fail. So I went to Miss Anatomy and did ask her. I said, I've got the lowest C and the lowest D in the class, and I just want your opinion. Do you think that I should quit nursing school? And she sat down with me, and she was a crusty lady. She was a retired military woman. And she sat down with me and told me, don't quit. Don't quit. I would rather have a nurse with a C average and compassion than an A and no personality. So I didn't quit. And I was thankful for her. But what did I do? I was aware of the loss. I was prepared for failing school. And I verbalized it, and I went to the people it knows. So that awareness piece, when I talk to you about be aware and be prepared, you want to be more prepared. And sometimes in doing that process and taking a good look at these things and going, yeah, maybe it's not as bad as I think it is. Maybe it was a good thing that you went and spoke with your supervisor or your boss, or if you thought you were going to lose your job. Here you have a variety of things that as nurses you're going to see, and perhaps that you have experienced yourself. Loss of relationships, loss of dreams. And then I could ask you this. Do you think that there is a range of intensity? For I believe there is. I believe every loss is personal and we can't judge it. I believe that in our own way, we can take a look at our personal loss inventory and rank it. Which one was the worst? Which one did I learn from the most? And what did I learn? Truly, I think that being aware that loss is going to happen, you're going to be more equipped to not only help yourself, but to help other people that you meet in your life. And that's the joy of knowing loss. Here is my Sir Duke. He was always in my gardens. One of my saddest days, my personal loss days. I retired on the 14th of a month, and 3 or 4 days later, Sir Duke died. Now, Duke was like a baby. My husband and I had him from the time he was 18 months old. We had driven over to Kentucky and got him from a foster home, and he was such a baby. He loved to lay on your lap. He weighed 75 pounds. He was just a part of our family, and my husband and I, it was as if we'd raised him together. And when I lost him, it was extremely difficult because, you see, I already experienced the loss of being retired. That hadn't even soaked in yet. But when you retire, everybody goes, oh, that is so great. Not for people that like to work, not for people that love to help other people, who love the respect and love and compassion of your friends and your coworkers. Sometimes it's hard. And then to lose your dog, it's hard because our four-legged friends are sometimes the sweetest expressions of excitement and love. They will their butts. They just are so happy to see you. And yeah, he was a stinker. He was a little bit of a counter surfer. But here's the point. I had a friend who had lost a baby, and I was telling her, well, I also lost my dog. Well, she had lost her baby 50 years ago, and I had just lost Duke months before. And she pretty much, you cannot say that the loss of your dog comes close to the loss of my baby. I had a miscarriage, and you cannot. I mean, she shot me down. And when I say we do not want to have judgment because loss is personal, it isn't a comparison study. Your loss is yours. And maybe your 50-year ago loss of a baby that was a miscarriage that you've carried for 50 years is as severe as my dear sweet dog. But to diminish it and to say, it doesn't come close to what I went through and what I live with. That's where words have to be very, very careful. We have to be sensitive because you see, mine was raw and she's still carrying hers around, and I'm not going to judge her, but you have to be so careful because you can never forget the personal side of a loss of something that you cared about and that you loved. So in summary, loss is connected to our personalities. And I will tell you this, a loss intensity ruler does not exist. When you go back to your personal loss inventory and you look at the intensity of it and you rank it, if time has passed, it may not be as raw to you as it used to be. And maybe you're going to be able to go, whoa, I can see something I learned from that. Or it was a loss at the time, but now I can see there's some good gain from the loss that I experienced. So you have to realize an inch is an inch on a ruler. You can measure my waist, you can measure your waist, but the truth of it is a loss intensity ruler does not exist. You have to measure your own. And what you say it is what it is. I can't use a standard stick and do that to you. I can't do that. So we have to respect one another's journey without any judgment. And we need to begin to explore possible gains from our losses. And as we do that, you have to start realizing we need to be careful about the words we choose and the things that we say to one another, because you should never dismiss someone else's loss as being less than yours. Again, there's a reference, Earl Hipp. Also, Human Dynamics, that is also a wonderful reference and conference. I'm not sure they're still giving that conference. It was quite old when I took it, but it was an excellent thought about personalities. And I am Dr. Donna Kinchlow. I thank you so much. And we are moving right on. As you all know, there are handouts available for you to do your self-reflection and to work through some of these questions. Thank you so much.